On the Big Three, we don't just bring you the headlines, we go beyond them. Every weekday, Monday to Thursday, join us as we critically review the three biggest stories driving conversations across Nigeria. From politics to policy, economy to everyday life. If Nigeria is talking about it, you'll find it on the Big Three. The Big Three, more than the headlines. It's where the conversation lives. Only on Nigeria Info 95.1 FM. The Big Three.
This is Hard Facts.
Hard Facts.
Hard Facts.
On 95.1 Nigeria Info.
Afternoon, capital city. Welcome to Hard Facts on this good day indeed. It is the 19th of February 2026, and I know what the conversations must have been like from early on this morning, considering what happened late in the day yesterday with the presidential assent of the electoral bill. But sometimes when you put things that get to you like that, it's as if it's getting to you, because it's not getting to everybody from the conversations I already overheard. You can still find time to appreciate some of the other good things that are happening to you. So I hope you're taking time to do that. Perhaps it's just the fact that you're well. And the fact that you have food to eat, if you do have food to eat, the fact that you're not expending all the little money you've made or the much you've made, having to deal with health issues and all of that. And if that is where you are, my prayers go out to you. You have to take the good with the bad. It can't always be good in life, right? Can't always get it the way we want, but we must forge ahead still. And forging ahead is also very, very important, especially given the conversation around the elections, which is happening on Saturday. That's 2 days from now. Like I said, we are going to be bringing you all the updates on that live from early on in the morning. As soon as the the polling stations open, polling units open, and people start voting, you're going to have live coverage of that, how that's going on, and also updates in case people want to share their experiences at the polling units. You can share all of that here. And this is especially going out to those who've decided to vote. You heard the music that played earlier on. Please, whatever happens, do not sell your vote. As much as possible, stay away from anything that has to do with violence. It's so important that we have that conversation. And if for some reason you're not voting, no judgment on you either. At the end of the day, we all want a better Nigerian. And sometimes these things get to us so much and we just feel like, oh yeah, I'm just going to sit this one out. But hopefully, we will make the necessary changes, and where those changes cannot be made, we will come up with alternatives going into the major elections coming up. By all indications, February next year, assuming it doesn't get shifted to earlier, either December or January. But whatever the case is, it's good to be here. Thank you for staying with us. Thank you for keeping up with the conversations. Thank you for sharing your thoughts as well. We get to continue. Yes, we will continue some of the things you've already touched on, but from a different angle, looking at what we can do, given where we currently are at. We will do all of that. That will be taking us on the Big Three from now up until 4:30. I have guests who will come in at about 4:30, so there wouldn't be sound bites, maybe just one by the time they're done. By 5 o'clock, we will get into our final session of understanding the Tax Act. And I'd said before that we're going to talk about the Tax Administration Act in particular. We've been dwelling a lot heavier on the Tax Act itself, maybe with a bit of a foray here and there into the administration. So today we'll just look at administration. We hope if you have any questions concerning how the Act is going to be administered, we're going to be touching on all of that in the 5 o'clock hour. And as usual, by 6, we shift gears and then just let you take ownership and let us know what it is that you want us to know concerning everything that is concerning you here in the FCT. I see what I did there with the tautology, but it's okay. It happens sometimes. My name is Somi. That's Somi, short for Apena Somi. Let's get into it. I already have a message here. Someone saying that I should continue. What? The one about continuing to play the song. Okay. All right, David, with that one. Continue to play the song until 2027 so it can sink into our consciences. Well, I mean, sometimes when you think about vote buying, you think it happens just at the grassroots level. But in some instances, some people's votes have already been bought at the highest order or the highest offices of the land. I'm not saying I have any information on it, but sometimes you wonder at the way things are playing out. But we're moving on. Yesterday, late in the evening, the president assented, signed the Electoral Act 2026. It is now officially law. It contains real improvements, even alongside what some Nigerians have identified as dangerous loopholes. So, what does this mean for us? Where do things stand right now? And what are the things that we need to know about the entire act itself? Because, yes, because of that very important clause 60 and the way things played out with it, we tended to maybe gloss over the rest of it. We will be looking into what changed and what did not change. But just to say that with the signing of that law, the burden of proof, first of all, now rests heavily on INEC. And while we're talking about that, you're having ex-INEC officials speaking about the law that has been signed and the risks that it raised. So former Director of Legal and Public Affairs at INEC, Oluwole Osaze Uzi, was raising concerns over some key provisions in the Act, warning that they may weaken transparency and further erode public confidence in Nigeria's electoral process. And he made these assertions during an interview with Channels TV yesterday, talking about the debate around manual and electronic processes being misunderstood. For him, he said, the grey area means a lot of things are not clear. So for those people who are asking, what's the fuss about? We asked for mandatory electronic transmission of results. Yes, that's what Nigerians asked for, and they gave it to you, but then they included the clause in case of network failure. So basically, Mr. Osazeuzi, speaking to this matter, says it's a bit of a gray area. He says, yes, we do have a hybrid, but we also need to consider that there have been, this where we are right now is an improvement from the manual register that was in place several election cycles ago. So what are we looking at? The BVAS, as it stands, reads not just the card but also the biometrics of the voter. He says those are not manual processes, those are electronic processes. And perhaps this was his response to the president, who at that meeting where he signed the act into law was talking about how essentially pretty much everything that we do is manual, and that the only thing that is electronic is the transmission itself, but it is a transmission of what was manually done. So Mr. Osaze Uzi, speaking to this matter, made reference to the fact that that's not entirely the case. You have manual processes involved, but the work of the BVAS, for example, is an electronic process. It's not a manual process. And he also said that the real issue is not technology, but transparency in the transmission and collation of results. So again, going back to what the president said, a lot of these processes are dependent on the people, right? It is the people that will collate. It is the people that will vote. It is the people that would, and everything. And it's still the people that will be then responsible for doing the transmission. So if transmission of results is the major problem, right? And that is because of the role that people tend to play when it comes to that one. Osaze Uzi, when he was speaking, says the transmission in itself has been one of the lacuna that provides opportunity for interference, which is what this clause that was passed seems to allow for. It will provide opportunity for interference, because going by precedents and previous, what they call it, election cycles that we've seen, we have seen how people involved in that process affect the process. So according to him, although the results are displayed physically at polling units, discrepancies often occur before they reach collation centers. Between the polling units and the collation, oftentimes, he says, there have been little things happening. And each level of collation, you see changes, you see manipulation, a lot of which a lot of Nigerians, especially in the last election cycle, could attest to. But as far as network coverage, he says that's not the issue. That is outdated. The conversation has been had, dusted, and dealt with, noting that previous engagements with the NCC show that over 93% of network coverage was available. And in the areas where there were blind spots, there were provisions made for those blind spots. So he's speaking to this matters and saying, really, at the end of the day, it is the people problem that we need to address. The technology in itself is not an issue. Of course, this a point that needed to be cleared up, given that this was one of the major reasons that the clause was retained, or rather put in the law as it is, and then signed. Long story short, we are where we are at, and unless anything happens to change it and take us back to the legislative chapter, where really and truly most of the changes that we expected to see could have been made, let's come to just get a general picture of where we are now. After the protest, after the disputed voice votes, after the tear gas at peaceful protesters, after the joint committee that quietly adopted the weaker of two available positions, that chapter is done. And the president, with his constitutional powers, could have sent it back, but he did not do it. That choice was his to make, and the rest of the choice should now be on Nigerians. But we're not throwing away the entire law. If at all anything is going to happen, the law in itself is not without merit. So some provisions present genuine progress. The problem is with the weakest clause, which is that clause 60. And as some would say, an electoral law is only as strong as its weakest clause. But moving on alongside that, what else was gained in this electoral act? You have voters who can download their PVCs directly from INEC's website. That was what was another clause that was passed. It's a win, yes? Don't you think so? It's a win. Because in 2023, millions of PVCs went uncollected because the physical collection process failed, or it was a case of wrong centers, inadequate notice, and all of that led to chaos. But the digital access removes a real barrier and presents an opportunity. So if you registered, you should be able to vote, because this provision makes it more likely. We will expect that at the point of application, the process the process is seamless. It doesn't allow for interference that will now make somebody now say, okay, no, you need to pay me this amount of money before I can print it out for you, because you cannot print it out yourself. That's something that's probably going to be way ahead, but we're hoping that it is not there. Another interesting clause that went through that a lot of Nigerians, maybe we haven't really gotten into that discussion around it and what it means. The law that allows for the reduction of the timeline for releasing election funds to INEC from 12 months to 6 months. Before the 2022 Act, INEC had no guaranteed timeline at all and approached the executive cap in hand each cycle. But for the 2023 elections, INEC requested 305 billion. The government's opening offer was 100 billion. Having the planning window reduces INEC's leverage to resist underfunding and its buffer against late disbursements. Kenya and South Africa, for example, operate under dedicated electoral funds with multi-year planning horizons and no executive discretion over timing. But Nigeria has moved in the opposite direction, which is a good direction. It now remains on us. Us, when I say us, we are civil society. We must track the disbursement to INEC from this point forward. And if the executive uses the shortened window to staff the commission, that pattern must be documented and challenged. again, speaking about certain gains from that law so that we're not just looking at the one issue and not considering the others. The law removes the national ID card and driver's license, which was proposed. It removes that from the accepted documents for voter registration. No justification was offered, but that was removed. But of course, which brings us to the controversial e-transmission clause. Now, what can Nigerians do given this clause and everything that's happened, it being passed, is where the conversation will now open up. By the time phone lines open, what can we do? Telcos have come out to talk about the fact that there's national coverage. And again, like I said, from what Sazeuzi said, the INEC official who was speaking, he made mention of the fact that there was a significant percentage of coverage provided. Telcos are backing that argument as well and saying that it should not be a cause of concern for Nigerians because the technology, the network will be there. So if we're going to speak about what Nigerians can do going forward to protect their votes, it will now be a case of the people issue. And speaking about the people issue, there was another INEC official that spoke to the concerns about that. Former INEC resident electoral commissioner Mike Igini. He, during his own speech, was urging the president to withhold assent to the Electoral Act, calling it a recipe for chaos. Well, that already happened. But in his own explanation, he said that part of the problem you would have is a situation where Nigerians have gone to the polling units, they have cast their vote, everybody can see that there is network. And then you have what's it called now? The officer at the polling unit, a lot of the time they use UCO members, now telling you that there is no network to transmit it. He said that is a potential problem that can arise. But again, we're saying we're not going to be violent. We're going to protect our votes to the best of our ability. We're going to do everything that we can do. Let there be evidence to show that at the end of the day, Nigerians, as much as possible, played their part. Now, it will now be left for those people at the coalition centers, from the polling into the coalition centers, well, Sazai Uzi said a lot of these issues now come up to now allow their consciences be their guide, if you will. But, all of this conversation going on to say, look, yes, the president has assented, or rather has signed the law. Is all hope lost? Some people say no, not at all. And some people say, look, there's still work that can be done. It remains to be seen what Nigerians can play to combat the people problem that could be used to cause interference or disrupt the process in any way that is unlawful. You also had a Professor Bade Ojo talking about how the swiftness of the passage of the electoral bill can cause one to interrogate the motive. But then again, there are people who say it's a good thing. He moved very quickly, right? He moved very quickly. But his concern was that the voice of the people, according to the way this played out, it seemed like the voice of the people was not enough to stop the National Assembly or stop the president. So again, it now remains to be seen what happens at the point of the polls. Now, as much as this can be very disheartening in itself, and sometimes you look at our electoral history and you think, oh, well, this happened then and that happened then. I want to come from the point of view that it is, it's really played out. Like everything that could possibly play out has played out, which gives us ample time as active citizens to be able to find a way around it and defend our votes to the best of our ability. It would be that at the end of the day, what the biggest problem is, this weakest clause in the Electoral Act, what it did in 2023, for example, was give room for the courts to say such and such, talking about how the IREV was not, how did they put it? Something about how the IREV in itself was not part of the collation process. So what they had the right to recognize was the manual forms. I don't remember exactly how it was said, but something along those lines, which is what people were trying to avoid, to say if you had a law that spoke clearly to the process concerning the transmission of results, then it would prevent a case where by the time, if at all, it gets to the law courts, then the courts will not be able to interpret properly because a gap has been made in the law to allow for that provision. Do you understand where I'm going? So I guess that's the biggest issue there. But again, everything that could have possibly played out, the way I see it, has played out. The question then remains, how can we protect ourselves going forward from any of these possible interferences or interruptions that can happen when that time comes? Perhaps some of you have given it some thought, would like to hear you share them when the phone lines open. Meanwhile, you have the president of the Senate talking about how they did a very thorough job, very painstaking, and at the end of the day, they met the yearnings of Nigerians, and Nigerians would benefit a lot from future elections, stating that every vote will now count. And so he seems confident that they've done their best. It remains for us to do our best. All right. Let's go to the next story. While the president was signing the Electoral Act yesterday, that was not the only thing that he signed. Perhaps this might be considered quite significant in itself, looking at the implications. The president yesterday signed an executive order that slashes NNPC's revenue and directs remittance to the Federation account. What this means is that NNPC Limited will no longer collect and manage one thing being the 30% Frontier Exploration Fund. He issued this executive order, in the words of the dailies, to safeguard and enhance oil and gas revenues for the Federation, curb wasteful spending, eliminate duplicative structures in this critical sector of the national economy, and redirect resources for the benefit of the people. President signed this executive order in pursuance of Section 5 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. And by this executive order, ownership, control, and derivative rights in all minerals, mineral oils, and natural gas in, under, and upon any land in Nigeria, including its territorial waters and exclusive economic zone, it has vested the ownership of these things. The Constitution provides that this ownership of all of these things that I've listed is vested with the government of the Federation. And so this executive order seeks to restore this constitutional revenue entitlement to the federal, state, and local governments because they were removed in 2021 by the Petroleum Industry Act. Now, the PIA created structural and legal channels through which substantial Federation revenues were lost through deductions, sundry charges and fees. Under the current PIA framework, NNPC Limited retains 30% of the Federation's oil revenues as a management fee on profit oil and profit gas derived from production sharing contracts, profit sharing contracts, and risk service contracts. In addition, the NNPC also retains 20% of its profits to cover working capital and future investments. Now, given the 20% retention, the additional 30% management fee by this executive order is considered unjustified by the federal government, as the retained earnings are already sufficient to support functions that the NNPCL performs under these contracts. Now, let me see if I can break it down and make it a little easier to get. Now, what this order has done is remove one of the many monies that the NNPC, had retained due to the changes in the PIA. So the 30% management fee is one key amount here that has been returned back to government. All right. So this new order eliminates this fee because, according to them, NNPC also already retained 20% of its profits. So you cannot have 20% of your profits and still be charging a 30% management fee. Also, according to this order, the NNPC will no longer collect or manage the 30% Frontier Exploration Fund. Okay. Now, all oil and gas operators and contractors are now required to pay royalties, taxes, and profits, whether on oil and gas, directly to the Federation account, bypassing the NNPC as the middleman. The order also suspends the payment of gas flaring penalties into the midstream and downstream gas infrastructure. Instead, these penalties will now flow directly to the Federation account. And the president stated that the reason for this is that the PIA's authorized deductions were far exceeding global norms and diverted over 2/3 of potential revenue. As for the implementation, an implementation committee chaired by the Minister of Finance has been set up to oversee this transition. And this is seen as a major step towards repositioning NNPC strictly as a commercial enterprise rather than a government revenue manager. Now, what does this mean for the average Nigerian? I imagine some people are asking. Well, it doesn't directly translate in naira and kobo to our pockets. What it does, rather, is that it means that there's more money going to your state governor, more money that will go to your local government chairman, right? Because these monies are now going directly into the Federation account. So, of course, the FAC allocations that they receive have a tendency to increase. And in an ideal situation, what we should see is that more money for the governors will mean, better state-run hospitals, primary schools, local road repairs, all the basic amenities and things that we expect that should be provided for us at the local government and state level. The reality, though, is that Nigerians will only feel this if these governors and chairmen actually use the extra billions for public projects instead of administrative waste. Now, again, this takes us back to the conversation around monies that are received by these governors and area council chairman. And I say area council chairman because in the FCTA that is what pertains to us. And as a matter of fact, the incoming chairman, whoever they may be, it is on record, at least to the best of my knowledge, it is on record that they are not receiving monies directly from their minister. They're receiving monies directly into the Federation account by virtue of the structure that the FCT has. So with this executive order, there's going to be more money going into the coffers. Are we going to be able to track it? Are we going to be able to follow it? Are we going to be able to ensure that they get these monies and put them to good use? Because from what we've been seeing in the budget defenses in the last week or so, even though some major billions may be budgeted, they don't actually get all the money. So again, it's a conversation around following the money. This is our civic role. This is our civic duty. At least it's something that we can do. We have some sort of control over because there's more transparency now. Maybe not transparency. There's more openness now in terms of what these people are receiving, how they're receiving it. The transparency lies in what they're using it to do. But just to say that this is the major implication of this executive order that the president signed. It does not affect the pump price of petrol, just putting that out there. It is a case of, perhaps something that can allow for the revenue of the federal government to be increased, and they can, hopefully fund most of their budget deficits and not look to borrow more and then somehow find a way to transfer that burden of the debts that they keep incurring on the Nigerian people. So we have, especially under this administration, been borrowing heavily to fund our budget. By virtue of this executive order, it should provide an extra revenue stream for the government that will work towards reducing this, if not eliminating it totally. Maybe I'm being a little too trigger happy there. Hoping that it will eliminate it totally, but it should reduce it significantly. So it's a good thing that they're able to redirect these remittances, and they relied on the constitutional provisions to be able to do that. However, another concern is just how much more of the PIA can be changed, because when the PIA was being passed into law, you would have expected that, the provisions of the PIA have allowed, or rather have considered what the constitutional provisions are and how they can work alongside, so that by the virtue of passing the PIA, you're not gonna have to keep going back to the Constitution to say the Constitution allows me to do this, and so I'm going to use my vested powers to remove this and this and this from the PIA. I think for me, that is where a possible concern could be, is that was work not thoroughly done on the PIA so that it is not exploited by virtue of executive orders and constitutional provisions how many years after it's gone into law. But on the flip side, again, like I said, this should be a good news, because even though it may not translate to pump price directly, what it means is that more money for the federal and state governments and local government chairman as well. But what are your thoughts on that? We'll take that in a little bit. Let's see if we can touch on the last story very quickly before I open up the phone lines. All right. At this point, you see, for this particular headline, I'm just going to put it out there because our duty is to inform nonetheless. But after the fourth intervention by the president, news as of today is that the Rivers State House of Assembly has suspended the impeachment proceedings initiated against Governor Siminalayi Fubara and his deputy, Ngozi Odu. And this decision was taken today during the Assembly's resumed plenary in Port Harcourt and the state capital. The lawmakers moved a motion to halt the impeachment process. This is after the House had earlier commenced impeachment proceedings against the governor and his deputy during its first sitting this year, citing allegations of gross misconduct. We expect that we're going to be getting more on the story. The story is still developing, but with all the allegations levied against the state governor, apart from the governor, the president's intervention, one would have to ask, what are the clauses, or rather, what were some of the... I mean, we've only seen cryptic videos here and there, Fubara referring to Wiki as, some sort of... what was that now that he said? I can't remember. But just cryptic videos ever since that meeting, and then we're getting this today. It's not unexpected, but, I'm thinking perhaps if I was from Rivers State at this point, this is rather distressing because if there's not a lot of information perhaps on what clauses were reached, so that each party can play their part and then we can all just move on. Where hopefully we don't see any impeachment proceedings come up again, because like I said, the allegations were quite grave, if you will. At the end of the day, they say if you don't want to be found wanting, then don't do anything that will make you found wanting. But you're having allegations of approved expenditures without legislative authorization, amongst other claims. Now, I said what I said concerning the allegations and all of that, because for me, the position is, instead of using this thing as a weapon to continue to destabilize governorship in the state because there is some infighting going on with what party and this other party, I think the thing to do would be say, go ahead and investigate and just be done with it. Investigate, establish proof of all of the allegations you have so that we can all move on. Because we don't want a situation where 2 or 3 months down the line, someone says something, another person gets upset, and at the end of the day, this is weaponized again and is thrown up. Imagine what it is for you to have four interventions by the president for them to come to this point. So for the people of Rivers State, I don't know, perhaps this is good news for you, because this means that Siminalayi Fubara can focus, or you're just hanging again, you're just in limbo. For me, the concerns are, what does this say about our political or politicking in Nigeria altogether? Nobody, no entire state, no one person in an entire state should be subject to the whims and caprices of the emotions and feelings of aggrieved parties in politics. No matter what is going on, let governance still continue within the state. And if really and truly there are cases of allegations that need investigating, they should be investigated. If the lawmakers are suspending their motion or calling off their motion to impeach Fubara and his deputy, it should be based on the fact that they have done what needs to be done in terms of investigations, and they have certified that he was not found wanting. It shouldn't be because someone just sat down, pressed the button somewhere and said, Oh yeah, just yeah. Let it go for now. Let it rest. Let's see how things play out. But that's me. What do I know? Let's open up the phone lines and hear from you. 07009510000, 0809-597-4869, and on WhatsApp 0809-993-0137. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Welcome.
Hi. Yeah, how you doing?
I'm very well, thank you.
Hold on.
Thank you.
I just want to say that it's good enough NNPC is giving more to the federal government, at least after, all the more liberation, they really have to share more taking enough to the federal government and the president of signed executive act about that. But yeah, but one thing I'm really more concerned about, not really collecting more from the NNPC and sharing to the three arms of government. That's our problem. The problem we have with this money to get to the people, with this money to really not to erase some few pocket of people who are in the national and the sub-national, is to make sure that this money really gets to the people. When last night I was taking a look call and somebody from where is turning the airport into international airport and people facilities and all those. It's good. But how many of the Akwa fly international airport? I don't think out of 100% Akwa, I don't think 50 or 60% of Akwa know where the airport is. Those who are living from the far hinterland and all the airport. This we need to do is to make sure that the empowerment problem, see the electricity problem as we have it. I think the electricity, I hear about this, they're owing over 1 point something, about 4 point something trillion, is to make sure that how we could be able to upgrade the power sector. You understand? How the power sector can be able to be fixed. If the federal government still owing over 4 point something trillion, getting to 6 trillion thereabout, you could be able to see how we'll be able to challenge, if not 50% of that money, the electricity sector. Then we'll be able to upgrade the power sector. So we need the power sector to be upgraded because they just launched last year about what did they call about investment policy this and they launched in the national. These are things good enough. You're launching something like that. How do you translate to something industrial that Nigeria should be industrialistic? There is no power. If they talk about power, they should do something about power sector.
Thank you.
By every day, we need to see more of power because without power, people will not go. I'm begging people for this. They have a lot to do. There will be production. There will be a little bit of something.
Agreed. Thank you so much, Mr. Williams. I had to cut you there to allow for more people to speak. But again, like I said, it's not going to be, directly translated to Nigerians. The translation and the changes that you will see will have to come through the state governors. State governors have been empowered to, for example, improve on power in their states via generation, transmission, and what have you. So if they're getting more money from the federal account via FAC, then that is how you will see it translated to the lives of the ordinary Nigerians. And I'm speaking about the NNPC remittances. Hello?
Hello, good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon, sir.
My name is Adiola Victor from Bisalaji.
Welcome.
For many years, we have been handing of non-remittance of billions of naira from NNPC to the foreign account. And we don't know why, but it's due to corruption. That's the truth. But with this signing of a executive order, we don't know whether it will stop the corruption in NNPC. And we don't know whether this now will allow a special account, maybe the special account will be opened and the money will be going into that account and the presidency will monitor such money. But Nigerians find it just difficult to believe government at times because some Nigerians, as a matter of fact, definitely will lead many to this, believing that this is another avenue to generate money for other things or things that are not relevant or things that will not touch the lives of millions of Nigerians.
Yeah, but that concern will be at the level of the state and local governments who should have been seen to receive this money, because I'm not entirely sure if you require a new account opening or anything like that. And also, this is not all NNPC remittances that are resolved through the executive order. It's just this 30%, and the 30% can go into the federation account. I don't believe there's a specific account open. Now, if the federation account receives that money and you see that FAC has been sent to the state governors, that's where you start to track whether the money was used for the benefit of the people or not.
Okay.
Yes,
I believe that the money will be transparently used so that the people will know how government is spending the money. Because the issue of the removal of oil subsidy, this removal that we don't know, at times some people are, they don't know what is really going on. We are just hearing that more money is going to the state government. So, but people don't know the impact, especially at the sub-national level. So that is why some of us at times, when such things happen, we just find it to believe, because some of us still wonder why government will continue to borrow money. Because when you generate money from this place, this will have billion, and government still borrow money. So it's still a surprise to us. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Well, as for your difficulty in believing, they say seeing is believing, right? So I'm not entirely clear on the process. A committee has been set up to allow for the transition rather, a process of having those amounts, remitted directly to the federation account. So for you to believe it, you will have to see, first of all, is there evidence of increased earnings from the federal government, especially as it has to do with remittances? And then you say, okay, can you track this particular increase to what was received from NNPC by virtue of this executive order? Then the next line of tracking would be, how much did the state governments receive once this came into effect? How much did each state governor receive? Now, we normally see that there's information available to the general public about that one. What then becomes a little bit opaque is when you've seen evidence that the money has been received by the state government, the ones that are not doing the monthly or required reports that are supposed to be happening on a regular basis is where the problem now comes in. And the question will now be, are we that interested, and do we want to trace this money so that when we start seeing different things happening, we can ask questions? Now, also on the issue of transparency and accountability, yes, just like you rightly said, for years, NNPC has been like this black box. Money will just be going in, but the full amount is rarely coming out. So this, to an extent, the impact of this executive order is that it forces a pay first, ask later system where contractors pay to the government directly. And it makes it harder for trillions of naira to disappear into vague operational costs. Now, for the average citizen, this is a win-win for anti-corruption and fiscal discipline. But again, will it translate to naira and kobo in terms of pump price for you? No. But perhaps when it comes to governments and their revenue and their revenue sources, it may make them ease up a little bit on the burden that they are placing on Nigerians to be more responsible for the revenue that they are generating, because this is increased revenue for the government. The news is coming up any minute now, but let's just quickly look at some messages. Good day, Somi. My pain on the new Electoral Act is the fact that nothing was done concretely about taking people's mandates to another party by defection. This is Amodu from Hosanna Estate speaking on that one. Well, Amodu, what can I say? I don't remember seeing it in any of the provisions, even before it went to the National Assembly. So perhaps by the next amendment, we can put that in there. Let's see. Good afternoon, Somi. For me, I don't see anything bad in the alternative options. In the alternative option, e-transmission or not, manipulations will still happen because there's no perfect system anyway. In the end, that is what the politicians will use in manipulating the results. And I'd say at this point, if you let them. If you listen to Mr. Osaze very well, he carefully made mention the people who would do the collation, and that is the point where most politicians will perfect their rigging. Again, I say, if you let them. So politicians will always have their way. I can recall that INEC, according to him, he said, came out to tell us immediately after 2023 elections that the INEC cyber was attacked millions of times. Politicians in Nigeria can go to any length to have their way. Oludade Abiodun with that one. And then this message here. Good afternoon, Somi. Let us assume that we can revisit the last election petition tribunal. Let us also assume that this current electoral law was operational then. If the judgment outcome will remain the same, then this new/revised electoral law is dead on arrival. Why are politicians afraid of positive change? Dr. Alex from Gariki is asking. All right, let's take that break. We'll take the news at the top of the hour. When we come back, the phone lines will reopen again. It's still the big three, and we'll be hearing from you directly.
Okay, that is okay. It's
Let
okay.
me explain.
No, it's okay.
Let me
It's
explain.
okay. It's okay.
She
Off your mic. Over.
On 95.1
Nigeria Info. Your mic is always on. Let's talk.
Commission and the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission will be deployed to prevent vote buying. I added that anyone found culpable will be apprehended and duly sanctioned. And finally, FCT Police Command has announced a total restriction of movement from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. this Saturday, February 21, for the upcoming area council elections in Abuja. According to police spokesperson Josephine Ade, only personnel on essential duties or election-related tasks are exempt from this order. In the massive security operation, Commissioner of Police Mila Dantawaye has deployed a joint force of officers alongside the Army, Navy and DSS to ensure a peaceful exercise at all polling units. Residents are encouraged to come out and vote without fear, but are advised to remain law-abiding and report any suspicious activities to the authorities. And that's Abuja Today on 95.1 Nigeria Info. Thank you for listening. More news comes your way 5 p.m. The news update. I am Joy Eberebe.
With all the stories that make the news,
The headlines,
the caption, the breaking news.
details of the stories.
Let's talk about these and more
On 95.1 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
on your number one talk station.
You get a daily dose of news trends.
Prices averted in aviation sector after aggrieved unions suspend strike.
Intense conversation.
She's among the ICPC board members. What has she experienced in life? 20 years old, girl. She said because she has levels.
Sports and news
to keep you updated all day and every day.
Join the conversation on your number one talk station.
95.1 Nigeria Info.
Nigeria Info.
Let's talk.
There's a place where you can get it all trending.
People are dropping on their vehicle, are running, leaving their vehicle.
A place where you can air your views.
I want to report the situation.
Only on your number one station for talk.
This is not the way. We cannot continue like this.
95.1 Nigeria Info. Abuja. Let's talk.
Welcome back to Hard Facts.
This is Hard Facts.
Hard Facts.
Hard Facts.
On 95.1 Nigeria Info.
Thank you for staying with us and welcome back. We're still talking the big three. And if you're just joining us, we have looked into the implications of the president's signing of the Electoral Act, what that means for Nigerians. And it's not just the clause, the very controversial clause, where it was a conditional approval of e-transmission, but also every other thing else that the law contained and how it will affect Nigerians. Okay, so we looked at that one. Also looked at another significant signing that happened when the president signed an executive order to slash NNPC's revenue and have about 30% of a specific money being paid directly into the Federation account. And what that means, how it's going to benefit the Nigerian people. Of course, we're talking about more monies for the state governors, more money for the local government chairman, and all of that to increase government revenue. And on the part of the government in itself, hopefully it should bring about added revenue, which will mean the ability to fund the budget deficit and also reduced dependence on borrowing. Okay. So yes, it's basically about re-centralizing oil wealth, if you will, and ensuring that the Federation account gets the maximum possible amount of oil money upfront. Because again, this is specifically oil money. It is a 30% frontier exploration fund. This money is typically used for searching for oil in inland basins. But now these funds, according to this executive order, will be transferred directly to the Federation account for sharing among the three tiers of government. So it should be all-round benefits, even if not directly, indirectly. Because imagine a state governor who, as one caller was speaking the last time, focuses on providing power for their state by virtue of these increased funds, yeah? Because if you look at some of them, their budget presentations showed line items that spoke to power, providing power for the people, okay? So more money should give you more ability to do that. Who was it that we were speaking to yesterday? The candidate for NNPP, Abaji Area Council, he said something about power, but he was referencing the national grid, and someone said, where are you going to get the money to do that? That would be too much. Some other person said, look to alternative sources like solar and all of that. So if, for example, the people who are coming in on Saturday who get to win the tickets, or rather who get to be the chairman of these area councils, there is evidence that more monies have come to them, then perhaps if they deploy the sources, the resources wisely, as opposed to just adding it to the recurrent expenditure, paying salaries. I saw one area council that, allocated billions of naira to paying of salaries. You can't even see this money is really and truly reflected in the lives of these people, if we're being honest. So the question will now become, are they really being paid? Because what was it now? Was it not FCTA workers that hit the streets complaining about certain emoluments that they were being owed? So if these monies are coming in, then it should be going to serve the good of the people, whether it is in paying salaries and emoluments, whether it is providing power, ensuring that roads are done. Oh yeah, by the way, AMAC, sweet Jesus, according to the FCT budget, from the report that I saw, of the 500 and billions that was appropriated for the FCT, over 300 billion of that amount is going to go to Maitama alone, fixing Maitama infrastructure and all of that. So you now look at that vis-a-vis the other parts of the FCT, because it was an FCT budget, it wasn't an area council budget. You now look at if over 70%, 60% of what is due to the FCT goes to infrastructure and fixing roads and fixing what have you in just Maitama, how much is allocated to the rest of these cities and area councils? So those are the questions that we should be asking. That's how we follow the money. And so more money is definitely going to come once the executive order goes into effect. But how do we ensure that the people get to benefit from it? And we spoke very briefly about the situation in Rivers State, especially as it has to do with what it means for governance, generally speaking, being subjected to the wills to the will of one person. So yes, the phone lines are open. You can call back again. Let's continue with your thoughts. We have up until 4:25 to wrap this up. I've got a voice note here. Let's listen.
Good afternoon. My name is Francis. Sending this voice note right now from Lokogoma. About the law that the president has signed. It's really, really funny. And why is it funny? Because the Nigerian president that we know will not just sign things so urgently, so fast, like the way he did. Within 24 hours even, he has signed the law, the electoral so-called act that they amend, that will favor them. But they should get ready for us, because 2027 will not be business as usual. We're going to come with our internet. We'll be ready for them. Our votes will count and must be uploaded before we leave. If they don't count, we count them. That will be given to NMPC, and the other one should go to the federal account. And this one, did you notice of recent, both the governors, the ministers, they are very, very much interested in local government chairman election. Why? Because a lot of power has been given to chairman. And look at our honorable minister in around campaigning.
What did you do to your phone?
Because right now the attention is there. They want to see the way they can grab their own from that aspect, from that angle. So it's a junior, do your thing. Look at the thing that happened yesterday in Buhari. Well, the PDP candidate is endorsing the APC candidate. Where is this done? Only in Nigeria. So good. We are watching. 2027 is by the corner. Our PDCs are ready. And we're ready to vote them out. Thank you very much.
All right. About halfway through your voice note, the audio was really low, but I hope the listeners were able to catch what you're saying. It really is very unfortunate, honestly. I mean, you look at the way it happened with Buhari, and also as Joy read out in the news, I had heard about the PDP AMAC candidates sort of stepping down for Mikalango. I heard about it because we were trying to get him involved in the debate as well. So I heard about that. So that news didn't come as a surprise, only for me to find out that it also happened with the Buhari candidate. And according to him, it was because of the how did he put it? He made reference to the FCT minister. And that will take us back to what some of us were talking about yesterday during the eyewitness reports about statements by the FCT minister. I hope for those of you who were saying, oh, it's not going to translate into anything, I hope you can see what it's translating into. Because typically what you have is people within the same party, right, stepping down, allowing the other person, now you are having PDP. I said the PDP AMAC own. It happened a long time ago. Well, not that far off, but enough for us to have heard about here. It just didn't make the news. And then you now have this happening as well. Oh, well, it remains to be seen what Saturday is going to be like. And that's why we keep advocating as much as possible, at least from this end, to say, don't sell your votes, protect your votes. Again, when I was making reference to vote selling and vote buying, not just happening at the grassroots level, to some extent, this is what I was referring to some extent.
Good afternoon, my sister radio.
Good afternoon.
It's a pity. I want to speak regard to issue of a River State. River State House of Assembly have become a Robastan member. They no longer have a word of their own. They only do what they are.
Hello? It was a voice note. Why did you
Master dictated them to do, which he became the Minister of FCT. I think this man is supposed to be a man of timber caliber, a man of reasonable. But look at the way they are. The minister, he played them like football. Turn here to there, they go. Turn to this side, they go. Turn to this side, they go this side. A whole National Assembly member. A whole people that are capable enough to represent their constituency. So one person is praying you like a pray Uludo. It's a pity of them. I have to say these people, they are not men enough. They are even worse than women. They don't have words of their own. Thank you.
Where are women taking a stray bullet for this one now? Because a lot of women that I know, they have a voice, they have their own voices also. So please, they are worse than their worst counterparts. Please, it's not a woman matter. Okay, let's take some more calls. Good afternoon. All right, you did justice by turning that off yourself. Another voice note here. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. This is Real Hope. I want to talk about the law that President has signed into law. Whatever it is, I think it is time that Nigerians should ready. We should ready in the sense that everybody will go to the polling unit with their Wi-Fi. If the diva doesn't have the network, we spot them. You spot them for them to be able to transmit the results. So that is not an issue. If there is no network, we'll go with our Wi-Fi or spot them. They will transmit it.
They will have options in terms of network coverage. Even the Association of Licensed Telecom Operators of Nigeria, who I mentioned earlier, they said if it's 2G, sir, there is 2G. And in reality, 2G is strong enough to transmit results electronically. And so you cannot put a blanket ban on electronic transmission based on the fact that there is no network in most of these areas. According to the spokesperson of the association, he says those are half-truths about our infrastructure and investment. So 2G, at the very least, he says, can transmit results electronically. He says if it is, what they call it now, 3G, 4G networks, 70% of the country are covered by 3G and 4G networks. He says 5G has reached about 11% coverage. So, if it's network, don't bother yourself about that. We've got this. So it is interesting to hear Nigerian people saying, don't worry, we'll come, we'll hotspot you, not a problem. And then also, which brings us to another concern that some people have raised, thing about hacking. I don't know. I think perhaps we should concern ourselves first with the e-transmission, ensure that it gets there, and then we will not look at the hacking matter. But of course, the letter of the law itself is very, very important, because when it comes down to it, and you get to the last man standing, who in this instance we will call the justice system, we want something that they can interpret clearly. And that's where this whole hula baloo started from. All right. Hello? Hello? Please call me back. Good afternoon. Hello, welcome.
Hello, Somi.
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Good afternoon. This is Chigo.
Yes, welcome.
Thank you. Well, concerning the bill that Mr. President just signed in, after is it a day or 2 days, the thing was passed by the Senate, and they immediately, without wasting time, so fast, Mr. President signed it in. No problem, no wahala. Just like somebody said, we are going there. We'll go with our own internet. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, sir. Go ahead.
Good. So we are going there with our own internet. If their own fail, I believe that all our own will not fail. If the MTN cannot give service, Glo will be there. Let's now see. And we must to check if there is service in our own and there is no service on their own. We now know there is a problem. Understand? And we said we want to hotspot them, and they said no. Now that time there will be problem. Now that time there will be wahala. So any people are listening, I hope everybody listen. Those that are going to be there to conduct the election, they should know that yes, you must do this. If you say that there's no network, you show us, we give you understand the network. And if you fail to do that, you know the consequence, you understand. People will not leave you there. Just carry the thing and go without uploading. So that is it. There's no wahala. There's no wahala about it. I'm urging everybody to come out that day and vote. And on Saturday, people should go and vote. Please come out and go and vote. On the 20th coming election, the general election, people should come out in mass. Please don't get fear. Everything will be okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Chigo. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Auntie Somi.
Welcome.
I'm Olatunji calling from Kubwa.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yesterday I talked concerning the politics in Abuja, that how long can we stay in Abuja for us to be eligible to be protested for? You can see I talked concerning this morning also when Mr. Wike intervened in Abuja, the candidate stepping down, also in Amman. So the kind of campaign they are doing, I don't expect any candidate even come to the councillorship level of PDP to be protesting, because the rancor in PDP is even more critical than any other party. So it is about time and the chances for all of us to bring up a political party, and because of this electoral amendment, we see these chances for anybody now to form a party, and I go to the council through this electronic transmission and back up with the manual, because there will be chances result from the manual. I think it will be tally, and it will bring. Hello.
I can hear you, sir.
Okay, and I think this is the battle line between Nigeria and politicians, because it will give us a chance to form our own political party, and there will be chances for buying and voting, because if you pay some people for money and there are like 500 people in that polling unit, and you find out that it's only 10 people, so it will reduce buying and selling of voting. And I think Nigerians should wake up. They should not vote any PDP candidate, because there is no way for them to deliver for us, and there is no way for those past governors to even give record of their past performances.
Are you talking about Tunji, are you talking about the area council elections?
Yes, I'm talking concerning the SPC.
Why are you saying nobody should vote for PDP? Where's that coming from?
Because I think it, because there is example, that is why this candidate are settling down, not because of looking happening, because there is no level for them to perform. And if the council now and you can continue, they don't give chance for all to call the past people in the government to come and defend their activities, their past record. So I think we have to wait for.
Well, I mean, again, for me, why are you saying that about all of PDP? You have some people who step down, but is that representative of the entire party? I don't know that we can say that for a fact. And if it is that, there's no opportunity to, showcase themselves and tell you what they had to offer, I guess you can say that happened across board. It's not entirely on you, unless maybe you have some information that you're not sharing to determine that all of PDP was at fault in this, and because of that nobody should vote for them. I think everybody's at liberty to vote for whoever it is that they want to. It may not be who you agree with, but to come and say nobody should vote for them, nah, we won't do that. For those who step down, that's on them. Hello? Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, good evening.
Welcome, sir.
Okay, this is this one. Good evening.
Welcome. Good to have you here.
Yes. Whenever you are talking of more money, I used to, the thing used to surprise me. Since ever this government came into power, they have been talking of more money, more revenue, that they are generating more. And at the end of the day, common budget, to implement common budget, is it the government that is hindering from implementing budget? Every now and then they will be calling governor. Do you know about percentage they used to share that money?
But the governors receive money now. We have evidence that some governors received 4 times what they used to receive before. So why shouldn't we?
But that kind of don't see the federal government for responsibility now. Every time governor. Okay, what of your 52% you are receiving? What are you doing with it? Minister of Health, how much was remitted to them for their budget? Is it the governor that stopped it? Minister of Agri. I pray God will not help deliver us, so I will not be operating a voodoo economy. Because this is what we don't understand. More money. But the ministries are not receiving. Where is the money going into?
That's the question that we should be asking, sir. Because whether you like it or not.
Calling governor. I think it's only the governor that are collecting more money.
So we will call all of them. Should we call all of? I agree with you. So we should call all of them. All of them should come and account for the percentages that they receive. Is that fair?
They always diversionary attention, directing us to the governors. All of the states, what are they doing with their own?
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you. Honestly, everybody should account for it. But would you agree that there's been not as much as attention paid on governors, really and truly? Or perhaps you feel differently. So let's call out everybody. I mean, you call out the governor because they clearly received, and then you also have the federal government account for the monies that they allocated but did not release. Fair game? All right. Let's go on a break. Our Big Three is done for now. When we come back, we're going to be speaking to some guests. See you then.
A nourishing hero.
Say hello to the new Maltina 25 CLP.